That's for the G7 Power. Scratch resistant, oil resistant, crystal clear, case friendly, 9H tempered glass. Okay, so in the pack you can see here you have, I've got two of these, the other one is behind me, the screen protector accessory pack, and they've got an extra one here. This is a foam lining where they were packed inside of. This is the extra one, so you get two in this pack one. And as you can see, the installation, now what I like to do first is line it up to see where I am. Now I've got the gel protector on the back here, and as you can see, you don't need to remove it because the screen protector is actually smaller. You can see there going around, it's actually smaller than the overall screen, so obviously you don't have to take the gel foam off to apply this. Now what I like to do is make sure I line up everything the exact way I want it from the bottom to the top. You can just carefully put down and make sure you're lining them up perfectly. All I've got to do is put a bit of stickiness at the top or at the bottom, it don't matter which end, just so that I can get a line of where I want to put it without, I mean, usually I don't do that. Usually I just carefully place it once the sticky pad's off, but I just want to make sure I'm not taking too long lining it up for any dust to get underneath and cause bubbles. So what I'll do is I'll put a bit of tape over first to make sure I'm exactly where I want it, and then when I've done that I will put it on once it's all cleaned up and try to make sure there's no bubbles at all going completely up. Now you might think you want it covering the entire screen, which is natural, but the problem is I've read up reviews where people have done them with them right to the edges, and the problem with it, apparently because of the curved shapes, the curving of the edges of the screen going around and out, what happens is they end up sort of bubbling at the edges, because obviously this is a flat surface, this glass, and if it's bubbled at the edges all around, then you're not going to really get a straight fit unless the actual glass is curved with it. It's going to cause a kind of the edges to come up, so it's kind of pointless having it right to the edge. But to be honest, you know, it's not far off from the edges. You can see there, you'll be able to see sort of how far from the edge, and the rest of it is gel, so you know you're going to have a little bit of a height there anyway, so it shouldn't really touch it. And if you're careful with your mobiles, which I am, then you know you shouldn't have a problem. So in the pack, as you can see, I've opened it up here. You get your little microfiber cloth, nothing mega big, you don't need nothing massive here. If you've got an alcohol prep pad just to clean the screen first, and then obviously you dry it, and then you've got a dust absorber, so any little particles you see you can just carefully dab it on and it'll collect any of that dust. But again, it's being as quick as you can, but as careful as you can, so you don't, obviously if you leave it too long and you're hanging around too long, you've got chances of dust getting on it. But if you rush at the same time, then obviously you can disturb dust in the air and that can cause it to go on, or you can put your fingerprint on the inside or anything. So you've got, it's just so many factors, and it can be a bit frustrating. And as you can see here, what I've done is I'm using the sticky pad here, because I don't need this huge a huge sticky pad that's just as big as the actual microfiber cloth to get any fine bits of dust. I only need a little bit. So what I've done is I've cut one end of the straight part and another end of the straight part, so I know it's perfectly straight. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick it, find a good place where I know it's a perfect fit, and then I'm going to stick this on just on the edges of it, so that I got a good lining, so I don't have to sort of make sure it's absolutely spot on myself, although you can do it yourself, and I've done it in the past fine. It just helps to have a little guide so you know exactly where it's going to go. Okay, you can see I've only put one sticky pad at the bottom. That's just to guide me how far I wanted to go down. I didn't put one on the side for the simple reason that if I did do that, it was a bit awkward, and I just carefully guided it by pushing it to the bottom, but looking at the edges how far apart they were, and just working my way up with my fingers. Just hold the side, don't put it underneath because it will get a fingerprint. I cleaned it all up and I just made sure there was no bits, and I just carefully laid it, and I didn't push it down. I just let it run itself, and you could see it. I couldn't record at the same time, obviously, because it's so delicate, but you can see here where you can see one big bubble just slowly going down because I didn't push it, and now I can just see these edges here. Could you see that? I just pushed it down. You can see where it hasn't been pushed yet, and then I've just got to put a bit more pressure on these edges here to make sure it's forced down completely. Any little bubbles at all, but you just got to make sure you don't get no dust on before you actually finish the process. I mean, if I just get the microfiber cloth just to give it a little final wipe, because obviously you've got the gel padding on, but it doesn't get in the way of the gel padding. You can see there, if I run down carefully, make sure everything's pushed in around the edges. It's had a good wipe, and if I just carefully run down now, you can see, and then I can just remove this now. There we go. And that's the finished Yeehan. That's the finished Yeehan screen protector. As I say, don't go right to the edges, but as I say, these edges have got a slight curve to them, so if it did go right to the edge, I mean, you've got this gel padding, which I'm going to keep anyway because I like the gel padding. It's good enough for me, and so long as you look after it, you should be pretty much fine. No bubbles, and yeah, I like it. Like I say, I was going to go for the one at the edge, but to be fair, I don't think there was a point, because people said that it was just coming away because of the curveness. And if something really bothered you that much, you can always put another sort of a flip case or something if you didn't want it like this. But I look after my stuff, so technically I wouldn't need to. So yeah, anyway, I'm happy with that, and as you can see, there's yeah, I'm happy. Anyway guys, that's another video done, and remember, if you're a happy person in general and you want to see me again, click the subscribe button and remember my name, Yanu. That's who. See you later.